Okay. All right. This is gonna be a second video just to explain, drawing more of the details of your cityscape drawings. So now my suggestion with this aerial perspective cityscape drawing when you're adding more of the details for the buildings is, just kind of use like some of the examples from the finished pieces. So I feel like this folder that I had you guys look at of these finished drawings. I know it's a little hard to see with this iPad here, but I feel like these drawings, though. Let me kind of turn the contrast down a little bit more so you guys can see what I'm showing you here. Actually, I can pull it up on the computer real quick. Hold on. Let me fix this. So I'll just pull it up on the computer screen, but so these examples that I showed you guys previously before, this is in your examples folder. So days 3 and 4, examples of finished work. So I definitely would just take a look at these drawings that were done by students. In terms of drawing buildings and the details of the windows, really the trick is just adding different variety of windows, changing it up a little bit. If you want, you could do a little bit of shading, but I'm gonna give you a Sharpie though just to color in the windows, so you don't have to go really too heavy with the shading. But I feel like that's all you really need to do for like the buildings. If you really want to do like more complex things like drawing like letters or things on the building. I'll be honest with you, I'm not really super comfortable doing that either. It's a really hard thing to do. I would just stick with just windows and just doing like lines and different things. So you're just gonna continue with your drawings, okay? And I'm just gonna explain a couple of things, as I'm just working on my drawing a little bit further. So, I'm probably gonna give you guys a little bit more time with, the details of the building. So, don't worry if you're not able to, finish your drawings. Again, just try your best to, get as far as you can, with the cityscape drawings. Okay, and just make sure you're using the ruler, for the majority of the drawings that you're doing. Okay, but kind of feel free to just change up like the lines of the buildings, and there may be like a couple of buildings that you might actually like doing, like the windows, and then it's okay if you kind of repeat some of those what they call patterns of the buildings or patterns of the windows, because a lot of times in terms of like architecture though, you'll kind of see like repeated patterns over and over again with how some of the windows or things look in your, and even just like architecture and buildings. So it's okay if some of these things look the same. So like this window right here, I'm actually just gonna do like this one, just like a kind of just like a straight line. Okay, but you notice that I'm like trying to line up with that vanishing point. I'm trying to keep them all the same length if possible. Okay, but usually symmetry and or making things look symmetrical and making things look even is going to be real important to you know help with the drawings of the buildings and the details. So I'm gonna do the same thing over here though, just because these buildings are like on the same level. But just adding variety, copying some of the windows, doesn't really hurt with the drawing. Okay, so just only worry about the drawing. So maybe I might want to shade these, windows like one dark, one light. I wouldn't do it with the pencil. Wait till we get like the Sharpies. But you're gonna just add more details to it. So maybe I might want to do like the opposite for this one right here. I'm gonna make these lines really thin. This is very close to that vanishing point. So I'm lining up with this building here. So just remember your horizontal lines should be lining up together. Same with the verticals. And they're always at like a little slight angle. Okay, but I do want you to try your best though to draw all of the windows if you can. That's a bit challenging to do, but okay, let's see what we can do with this one here. So just to change this one up, I might just do the opposite. So you'll notice though, like I'm just kind of repeating like some of these patterns over and over again. You know, this one I might match it with this one right here. So okay, you know, you'll probably find like maybe 3 or 4 patterns you might want to just kind of just rotate between. I'll probably do one line in the middle so I can make that even on both sides. Okay, but when you're doing the details though, you know, you just want to make sure things line up perfectly. I'll probably do one. Do a line here. Try to do a line there. So I can have these line up like that. I'll try to squeeze one more here. It's not really even, but it's okay. Then add some lines in between here and there. Okay, but just continue drawing. If possible, try to draw all the windows. As you know, the more detailed, the more complex your buildings are, the more interesting I feel the drawing will look. Obviously, this takes, you know, quite a bit of time to do. But, you know, kind of once you get like a feel for it, it's like just like muscle memory. Just drawing the windows, adding details. And then eventually, like your cityscape will be finished. So, okay. So I'll just keep working in a circular fashion until I'm done with all of my windows. And you know, I'll show you guys the finished drawing. But you know, adding like the variety though really helps, even though it's like very slight changes I made. Like I just did straight lines here. This one I just did horizontal. This one I did kind of like a mix of the two. I kind of copied that building over there, which I thought was nice. I might copy this one there. So, you know, if you're running ideas, though, feel free to, you know, look at those buildings or, you know, like I said before, that, you know, these examples here, there's a lot of really good examples of different variety of windows you can do. You know, you can use that to give inspiration ideas to finish your drawings.